Monarchy. Historically, the dominant form of government in most agrarian civilizations, a monarchy is a system of rule by a single person, a king, queen, or emperor, who usually holds power for life or until they abdicate. The defining feature of most monarchies is their hereditary nature. The right to rule is typically passed down within a single family line, a dynasty. The monarch's power can range from absolute, where their word is law, to constitutional, where their role is purely ceremonial. It is a system based on bloodline, tradition, and the idea of a single, unifying sovereign. Constitutional monarchy. A constitutional monarchy is a system where a hereditary monarch is the head of state, and their powers are defined and limited by a constitution. In most modern constitutional monarchies, real political power is held by a democratically elected government. In these systems, the monarch often acts as a largely non-political, ceremonial figurehead, a living symbol of national unity and tradition. This system can be either parliamentary, like in the United Kingdom or Japan, where the monarch has no real power, or executive, like in Monaco, where the prince retains significant governing authority. Dictatorship. A dictatorship is also rule by a single person, but unlike a monarch, a dictator's power is typically not based on heredity or divine right. Their authority comes from force. A dictator, often a military leader or the head of a single political party, seizes and maintains power through the control of the armed forces, the suppression of opposition, and the suspension of elections and civil liberties. It is a system of absolute rule that is not bound by any laws or traditions beyond the will of the ruler. Aristocracy. An aristocracy is rule by a small, privileged, elite class. The word literally means rule of the best. In this system, power is held by a group of people who are considered superior, either because of their noble birth, their immense wealth, or their military background. Their right to rule is hereditary and based on the belief that they are inherently more qualified to govern than the common people. This was the dominant system in most medieval European societies, where a small class of nobles controlled the land and the power. Oligarchy. Similar to an aristocracy, an oligarchy is ruled by a few. However, the key difference is that an oligarchy is not necessarily based on noble birth or a claim of being the best. It is simply ruled by any small, powerful group. This group could be a council of wealthy landowners, a committee of top military officers, or the leaders of a single political party. The defining feature is that a small, self-serving group holds all the power, often for their own benefit. Theocracy. In a theocracy, the ultimate ruler is not a king or a president, but God himself. This is a system where the government is run by a priestly class or a single religious leader who is believed to be a direct channel for divine will. The laws of the state are the laws of the religion, and the lines between church and state are completely erased. Ancient Egypt, where the pharaoh was a living god, is a prime example, while modern forms include the Islamic Republic of Iran and Vatican City. Democracy. A democracy is a system where the supreme power is held by the people. The word comes from the Greek for rule by the people. In a direct democracy, like in ancient Athens, all eligible citizens vote directly on every law and major decision. In a representative democracy, which is the model used by most modern nations, citizens elect officials to represent them in government and make decisions on their behalf. The core principle is that the government's authority comes only from the consent of the governed. Republic. A republic is a form of government where the country is considered a public matter, not the private property of a ruler. Its key feature is that the head of state, usually a president, is not a hereditary monarch, but is selected by some non-hereditary process, usually an election, for a limited term. Many modern republics are representative democracies, but not all democracies are republics. The UK, for example, is a constitutional monarchy. The United States and France are classic examples of republics. Parliamentary system. One of the two major models for a representative democracy, a parliamentary system is defined by the fusion of the executive and legislative branches. The head of government, usually a prime minister, is not directly elected by the people. Instead, they are the leader of the party or coalition that holds the majority of seats in the elected parliament. The government is therefore directly dependent on and accountable to the legislature, which can remove it with a vote of no confidence. The United Kingdom and Canada are classic examples. Presidential system. The other major model for a representative democracy, a presidential system, is defined by the strict separation of the executive and legislative branches. The head of government, the president, is elected separately from the legislature for a fixed term. The president is not a member of the parliament and is not dependent on its support to stay in office. This creates a system of checks and balances, where the two branches have distinct powers. The United States and Mexico are key examples. Semi-presidential system. A hybrid of the two main democratic models, a semi-presidential system has both a directly elected president, who is the head of state, and a prime minister, who is the head of government. Power is shared between the two. Typically, the president has responsibility for foreign policy, while the prime minister handles domestic affairs. This system can sometimes lead to a situation called cohabitation, where the president and prime minister are from rival political parties. France is the most famous example of this system. Authoritarian regime. An authoritarian government is one where power is concentrated in a single leader or a small group, with little to no constitutional accountability. While it is a highly controlling system, its focus is primarily on maintaining political power. These regimes may tolerate some limited social or economic freedoms, as long as they do not challenge the authority of the state. Elections may be held, but they are typically not free or fair, and political opposition is heavily suppressed. Totalitarian regime. This is a more extreme and invasive form of rule than authoritarianism. In a totalitarian state, the government attempts to exert total control over every single aspect of public and private life, the economy, education, art, and even the personal beliefs of its citizens. The state is governed by a single party and a supreme leader, and it is propelled by a powerful, all-encompassing ideology that seeks to create a new man and a perfect society. It is an architecture of complete social and ideological control. Single-party state. A single-party state is a form of government where only one political party is legally allowed to hold effective power. While other parties might technically exist, they are forced to accept the leading role of the dominant party. The ruling party and the state become intertwined, with all major government positions filled by party members. This system is a core feature of most communist states and many authoritarian regimes, as it eliminates any possibility of organized political opposition. Military junta. This is rule by a committee of military leaders. A junta typically comes to power after a coup d'état, where the armed forces overthrow the existing government. The ruling committee, usually made up of top military commanders, will often suspend the constitution, dissolve the legislature, and rule by decree. While they often promise a future return to civilian rule, many juntas remain in power for years. Thanks for watching. Which form of government do you think is the most stable in the long run? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Please also remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.